Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name's William. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today we're picking back up in the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan. We're at Quartz Creek. We're going to take it on back to Nome now, complete the round trip, and hopefully this time around with some working weather so I can't complain about it. Anyways, let's go ahead and get on into the aircraft, get it fired up, and get out of Quartz Creek. Alright everyone, welcome to the cockpit of the Cessna 208. We're on the ground here at Quartz Creek. We're going to go ahead and start getting the aircraft ready for startup so we can get on out of here, get back to Nome, get the fuel tanks open, battery on, beacon on, avionics on, we'll set the prop to full, fuel shutoff valve is in, go ahead and initialize that. Alright. And we'll set our fuel boost to on. Throttle to idle. Now I've been having some issues with the ITT and starting this aircraft up, so I'm trying my best and figuring out kind of as we go. But we'll go ahead and crank the starter.
System test. Okay.
Just gonna watch everything come up. And we go to low idle. Just continuing to monitor. ITT's on the climb, NG as well. Good oil pressure, oil temperature's climbing up. And there's 50%. We'll go ahead and turn the starter off. Alright, so there's the ITT. And see, it kind of peaked there at like 595, and then it just started to take off. And from what I found, if I kept my throttle in that idle position, which from my understanding is what I should do, it basically is just going to run away, and we're going to overtemp the engine, which could just be my misinterpretation or whatever. But either way, like I said, just trying to fly it to the best of my understanding at the moment. Fuel boost back to normal. Go ahead and get our nav lights on, get our taxi lights on, pitot heat, stall heat on as well. So we're set up. We already got Nome in the GPS. You can see 57 miles away down there, and nothing on the ground here for Quartz Creek. We do have some mountains that we may need to fly around to kind of stay out of the clouds if that's what we're going for. But as the crow flies, 57.2 miles from us at the moment. So we're going to bring up our PFD real quick. We'll go option 3. We can see basically no wind here. We also go ahead and put in the Nome VOR frequency just as a good backup. So we'll get that up there. And you can see identified Oscar Mike Echo is Nome. So we're good on that as well. We're going to do nav. We'll do GPS and bearing 1, and bearing 2 we'll put in nav 1 and see if it'll pick up Nome VOR. Maybe it'll pick it up in the air, but it's not at the moment. Let's see, other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go. We've got our flaps in the takeoff position, and our runway we're going to be using is right here. It's runway 31 at Quartz Creek. We could go ahead and set an altitude in the altitude bug if we want. So why not? Let's go ahead and set for 2,500 feet. 2,500 feet in the altitude bug, and we'll leave it at that. So today we're on a pretty short field here. We're gonna try and rotate around 83 knots. So we'll get that parking brake in right here on the runway. So we're actually gonna go ahead and go to flight idle there on the mixture. Strobe light on, get our landing lights on, and turn our taxi light off here as we take runway 31. So if you see that ITT get into, if that number changes white, yellow, or red, it's technically kind of getting out of the range there. Trying to kind of figure out if I'm doing something wrong or if it's just the way the plane's modeled at the moment. So if you know, definitely let me know in the comments below. But we are lined up. We're going to go ahead and hold the brakes. We're going to set our power. Waiting for the power to come up a little bit more as the prop kind of comes up as well. Alright, and releasing the brakes. So see the ITT started to go up there and then starts coming back down into the green once we start rolling. Kind of makes sense, but... Alright, we're looking for 80... about 83 knots. Airspeed is alive. Coming through 60. Alright, there is 80 knots. We'll start to rotate. And we are up, positive rate. Alright, let's pitch the nose down a little bit, get a little bit more airspeed. Positive rate and accelerating through 95. We'll go ahead and go flaps up and compensate with a little bit more pitch. A little more pitch, keep that positive rate. We'll start our left turn now. So turning out left here out of Quartz Creek, we're heading almost directly south back to Nome. Go ahead and pull the power back just a touch. You see really low cloud layer, basically right on top of us, really thick as well. But we're going to do our best and try to fly the nice short distance on our way to Nome. We'll settle here on about this heading of 170. And just see like a that's basically our hole in the cloud right there. Alright, so let's pull the prop back, keep an eye on our torque, and pull the prop back to about 1800. Alright, there we go. It's a little bit low, so we'll increase just slightly. It's pretty hard to fine-tune, in all honesty. And I think we can go up to 2500. We'll see how it looks with the clouds. There's some clouds lower than us. They look really few clouds very scattered. Not overly worried about it. It's more of the big layer on top of us. And we do have some terrain kind of in between us and Nome, up to about 4,000 something feet is some of the highest, and you can kind of see it down there on our PFD, right in front of that yellow, basically, that elevated bit off in the distance. And you can see out the window some of the lower clouds up in front of us. But we'll go ahead and pull the engine back. Trying to fly it a little bit more by the numbers and probably doing a terrible job. But it's a lot of homework, man. It's a lot of homework to go through. Especially not having any experience with the turboprop at all. It is fun though. Settling basically here on a heading of 180. In all honesty, I wouldn't mind going a little bit further to the left to give ourselves a little bit of a wide berth here to this mountain range. And kind of just commit to going around the left side of it. Let's see if the yaw damper actually works now. No. At least it can be turned on independently. It's a bit of a test flight almost right after the patch was released, seeing what was changing in the aircraft. Get our landing lights off for the moment. And we could go ahead and turn our flight director on. See don't think that's going to make any difference, no. So we'll come left a little bit, and we'll kind of zoom in here on the map. You can see Nome did pick up once we got up in the air. That's pretty cool. Basically the way that should work, and it's nice that it does. We also need to tune to Nome's ASOS frequency to pick up the weather. So while we're kind of in this stage of the flight, let's go ahead and just make sure the aircraft is kind of doing what I want it to do before I really focus on that frequency. A little bit low, but I think we're doing okay. So let's focus on the frequency here. It's ASOS frequency at Nome is 119.925. There we go. We got it set up. So I think we're making the right call here, flying around these mountains basically, and then we can kind of dip into one of the valleys and kind of cruise down to Nome that way. It's kind of the way we got to Quartz Creek from Shishmaref. And it gives us an opportunity to enjoy the satellite scenery as well. Really a different looking landscape all the way up here. So if you have any suggestions as to what I'm doing wrong there as far as the ITT, or if it's just really that much to manage while you're on the ground, let me know. Like I said, I'm going to try and do some research into it on my own, and just try and learn more, basically, as we go. It might be an issue with this in the sim, or it might be something I can learn about and just get a better understanding of. That's kind of the whole point. So cruising along nicely here at 2,500 feet. We're right below this little layer. Aircraft's kind of oscillating around a little bit. I promise that's not me on the controls all the time. It is kind of bumping us around just slightly, and that is really stunning stuff out in front of us here. It looks like an alien world. I mean, really. That's awesome. We got the mountains kind of hiding in the clouds over there to our right. That's exactly what we'd be flying into. And none of those routes really looked like a great path for us to kind of navigate through. So bringing it down here to the map, I think we're going to swing around it and then kind of cut in towards this lake. And then I think this lake we can kind of channel all the way down to Nome from there. So you can see that lake, and then just kind of hopefully, yeah, take that all the way down, and it'll kind of pop us out on the other side of the range, and we can get on down to Nome that way. That's the plan, anyways. So we will we'll see how that goes. Been enjoying the update quite a bit, but still feel like I have so much to learn and so much to get back into. In all honesty, flying the Cirrus felt a lot more my speed at the moment with kind of where I am, but I do love the Caravan. I kind of wanted to get this thing back to Nome. And I was going to try the night the update came out, but the weather, while this isn't that great, the weather around this area was really bad. So I decided to delay a little bit. I didn't want to use some sort of preset weather, enjoying using the live weather. So we'll see if it's still functioning. Hopefully I'm not complaining about it. You can see down here at the bottom, 37.5 basically from the Nome VOR, and almost exactly 38 from Nome on the GPS. We're just flying around this little bit of terrain off to our right, and we can start to kind of cut in because we're going to shoot into this valley in between the two of them. It does look like we could probably fly directly over the stuff in front of us, and maybe we should, actually. We should either fly directly over it, or maybe we can, I don't know. It kind of sounds fun to go down the valley through the lake, so let's go ahead and do that. It might be a little bit longer, but hopefully it'll be an enjoyable ride. You guys will enjoy it as well. So we'll just swing to the right here. We're basically shooting the gap, kind of threading the needle. The weather does look like it's getting better off as we get further south here, which is good. The weather should actually be pretty darn good at Nome. At the time of departure, it was definitely it was a little bit windier, but really clear skies basically. So we'll see what it's changed to. It's taken me a little bit of time to kind of troubleshoot the issues I was having with the ITT and whatnot. I'm getting a little bit too caught up on that kind of stuff. It's a sim. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. I am not a real Cessna 208 Caravan pilot. I am just simply someone who enjoys it and wants to learn a little bit more through a sim. It's really starting to look pretty cool out in front of us now. We've got this nice little bit of a stream, kind of creek, river off in front of us running into the mountains. And you can see the lake that we're heading towards. Oh, we just got a big weather update, it looks like. Yeah, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere there with Quartz Creek. But the pressure just changed massively, and the wind just changed. So on that note, let's go ahead, before we start really getting into these valleys, let's tune up the ASOS and see if it has anything to say. Evidently not. Alright, so we're kind of flying blind at the moment. I could just go ahead and set local pressure, but I do want to try and pick up the ASOS and use that for my weather. It's not really a great reporting station between where I was and Nome either, so. We still have good visibility. I think we're doing the smarter thing as far as our route is concerned, but I also think it's going to be a little bit more enjoyable. So we're going to get right over the middle of this lake here, kind of where it comes to a little bit of a choke point, and we're going to turn left and go down basically in between these ridges off to they'll be off to our left and right. And we'll fly that down and out, and it'll kind of pop us out just almost at the coastline. I believe there is an airfield right here as well, so that definitely looks like one. Another small little strip we're just kind of flying over. There's tons of cool little places to explore up here. I was kind of saying that last time. And I definitely still think Caravan is one of the better aircraft to do that in. It's capable enough that you can actually get into and out of most of the places, but also fast enough to where it doesn't take you forever It's just a fun airplane all around, really. I mean, it also doesn't feel wrong necessarily flying it into a dirt airstrip or anything like that. It feels like it's at home. Alright, so we're kind of in this valley now. The clouds look like they're a little bit lower. Kind of just in between this region, so let's descend a little bit. Let's just fly through the valley. Keep retrimming the aircraft out a little bit. Get that descent going, and just pull back on the power a little bit as well. See, I had it go up. I had the ITT go up into kind of the caution range before the yellow, and that's pretty much it so far on this flight, anyways. Like I said, I think I'm getting a little bit too worried about it. You see a little bit of what looks like kind of a sunset hue in the sky over there off towards our right. Or following a creek, basically, it looks like, all the way in. "22 miles to Nome now." It does look like we could fly over the rest of this terrain. If we really wanted to, we could also just clear this big mountain off in front of us, and basically make a right after it. And I think we'd be pretty clear all the way too. Enjoying the scenery, enjoying hand flying. It's a fun aircraft to fly, awesome place to fly around. And now that we picked up some weather, that actually seems to be updating. Makes it a little bit more interesting. Let's actually tune back up and see if we can hear anything about the weather. We're just 19.5 miles away. It'd be really nice if it would pick up, but hopelessly trying to increase the volume, seeing if maybe that was an issue. You never know if you don't try. Really nice looking sky there. Beautiful seeing the light coming through it. Let's get back on the power a little bit, increase. Holding about 1,800 feet. That's just dandy. We're coming around the taller bits of terrain around us here. Just kind of threading the needle in between them. From what I saw from the weather at Nome, we're going to want to be using runway 28 if it is accurate. If we don't pick up the weather, we can fly over the area and see if we can see what the windsock has going on. Let's take a look at those clouds and that lighting. And all the way off over to a bit more red sky off to our right. It really does look like it's cleared up, but it almost looks stormier as we got out here. More light, but I don't know, it looks like it could just be a little bit more traditional kind of storm clouds, big puffy storm clouds, rather than that just rainy kind of weather we were stuck in up there. Alright, so we're going to start cheating back to the right. You can see basically the top level of the clouds and the terrain all the way out towards Nome. So I don't feel bad about flying over it at this point. So let's start turning. don't see any of it disappearing off into the clouds. Getting nice and low over that little bit of terrain. You could get the wind coming off of it, bumping us around. Hope you guys don't mind a bumpy ride. That lighting is spectacular. It still is amazing to me. Still doing about 165 knots here. The power pulled back quite a bit. Love this airplane. Alright, so we got this little bit of terrain to go over. And then it looks like one more little batch. Let's try one more time. 119.925 is what I have in COM 1. I don't think we're going to get anything. Alright, well, no weather for us to pick up from the automated weather people. So we'll go ahead and cheat. We'll set local pressure 2954. That's what it's set to. And we'll see if we can see what the windsock's doing. If not, we'll use what our PFD's saying on the wind. Does look like it's gusting around a little bit. We can see the lights for Nome right in front of us now. Look at that sun peeking through. It's a lovely flight on back. Even if we had to go the long way, take the scenic route. Bunch of thick clouds up there. See that little bit just kind of reflecting off the ocean out there. Nome up in front of us. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and come on down, focus on this for a second, get our landing lights on, set our prop RPM back to, I think it wants to be at 1900. Before we start our approaches or anything like that. On our PFD, we're having the wind coming from 060 at about 10 knots, which is kind of the opposite of what I saw before I left. But it definitely does look like that's what's going on. I mean, our ground speed is almost exactly 10 knots faster than our true airspeed, so it is coming from behind us. And so I guess if that's the case, we can either set up to land on runway 03 or 10 here at Nome. We're kind of in like a right downwind for 03 at the moment, if we wanted to do that. And in all honesty, it'd bring us in from off over the ocean, so let's go ahead and go for that. So we'll pull the power back. We need to start slowing down. There's the little tiny Nome, I think it's Nome City airstrip. No way in this world Could I get a 208 down on that runway without a little bit of help from the wind? I'm sure it can be done by someone, I'm sure, but not me. Continue the descent. We got the power still coming out. See the airport off over there. Let's just see if we can see a windsock or anything blowing around. Anything visible? Not that I can really see. It's a little bit easier to tell in real life, but they got the bus going, so I think they know we're coming in. It's probably going to park it right on the runway before I start my final. Alright, so airport's going off, disappearing behind us. Let's pull that throttle out now. Get the takeoff flaps in. Fight the pitch in the aircraft. And we'll start our turn. Oh, we're climbing. Watch our pitch. It's easy to get super distracted there. Alright, so this is going to be a short approach, basically. We have the runway right over there. To get slowed down a little bit more. For about 75 knots. Alright, there we go. Pitch for 75 here at the moment. And keep coming down. Alright, we are on final. Runway 03 at Nome. Wind looks like it's died off a little bit, just about 4 knots on the nose, but it's almost right on the nose. 75 knots. Add a little bit of power in. Got a car crossing right on the runway, I called it. Okay, it's clear. Alright, let's pull the power out. Alright. We are down and on the ground. Start getting a little bit of brake in. Try and make this turn off here. Oh, we don't have to go all the way down to the end. On the brakes and off of them. Nice little ramp to climb off the runway. Alright everyone, welcome to Nome. Hope you enjoyed the flight. Kinda looks like this should continue, but for some reason it doesn't. So Caravan's gonna do some caravan things here. We're gonna taxi on off of it. And I'll follow what it looks like it should be on over here to the ramp. We need to repave this ramp. Maybe it's gravel. Nice cheap parking. That's all you guys get. Cheap parking here. No fancy hangar. Alright, we will pull up, kind of point it off to the left here. Line up in row. Alright. So let's get the lights off and we'll start shutting the aircraft down. Parking brake is set. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and turn off all the avionics. Fuel boost off. Cut off. And we have completed the flight. Thank you. Continue. Alright, now that we're done with that, the beacon can come off. Come up here and close both the tanks. And go ahead and turn the battery off as well. And pull the fuel shutoff valve and throw the prop into feather. Probably a couple of those out of order, and I forgot to do the anti-ice. Oh man, I need to get some proper checklist printed out, but I hope you all enjoyed the flight. Welcome back to Nome. Thank you so much for riding along with me today. If you made it all the way to this part, if you do like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see some more flight sim content. If you have any places you want to recommend, any places you want to see or anything like that, definitely let me know in the comments below. Enjoyed having you along, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.